Hey guys, so I believe I figured out why Karl hired his law firm, and it goes back to a billionaire called Notch. So, did Notch pick Karl's attorneys? I don't believe so. I believe Karl was under the impression Notch would pay for everything, and at one point in time he was. So, Notch had told his manager, hey, take care of this guy, and the manager had paid Karl for 3 months, and that allowed Karl to pick what he called a great attorney that cost a bunch of money. And because Karl basically had a blanket check, he was able to hire the most expensive attorney that he could buy. Now, why did he hire the most expensive attorney? That turned out to be one of the worst decisions that he's ever made. I don't know. Maybe it was to punish Billy Mitchell. Just because an attorney is really expensive does not make them a good attorney or a good legal team, as we have found out. So I'm going to read you this off the Camelcast 08. This is on another YouTube channel that Karl Jobst did an interview for, and it is quite enlightening. So I'm going to start with this. Mitchell's W's record backs up to Guinness, even though they're obviously fake. Yeah, and he sent me your version of a cease and desist or whatever, which is like, I'm going to sue you unless you retract that now. And that's just me calling him out just at the end of a video. So he already knew who I was in 2020. So at this point in time, one thing to know is that these legal concerns, Karl Jobst understands their legal concerns and not lawsuits. So at this point in time, during the Camelot interview a year or two ago, this was on February 7th, 2024. So yeah, basically a year ago, he fully understood what a legal concern was versus a lawsuit, which later on he would have difficulty understanding the difference. He wasn't happy with that, and at the end of 2021 he filed an official lawsuit which is still ongoing. I'm not going to say exactly why he's there me over, but it is ridiculous when you know the whole situation. It's really stupid at the moment. So this is a transcription by YouTube. It may not be 100% accurate, but it does seem like he is dodging the question of what Billy Mitchell is suing you for. He actually says, on the transcript at least, he filed an official lawsuit, which is still ongoing. I'm not going to say exactly what it's over. That's interesting, right? Trying to get a trial date. I'm hoping that in a few months, and when you're in constant litigation like this, so it's one lawsuit, I believe, and a bunch of legal concerns. So it's not the constant litigation. It's literally just one lawsuit. Like this, it costs money to just have somebody on retainer, right? So I spent around 380,000. Oh my, that's Australian. So that's what, 200 a lot, 260, 250, 260 US. But trial preparation is super expensive too. So I worked out a deal with my lawyer recently about that, because like, dude, when I first got sued, I was getting estimates like, that the entire lawsuit would cost 200 grand, and I'm like, cool, 200 grand sucks, but I had some help and I can deal with that. Even if I didn't have help, I could probably survive that. The cost tripled, and it got to a point where the law firm was like, dude, it's going to cost another 200 grand. Oh, this is recently. This was a month ago. I'm like, what the F? I've almost spent 400 grand. And now it's going to be another 200 grand. So I had a bit of a temper tantrum, and this is ridiculous. And I worked out a deal with my law firm, which turned out to be well over 600K. That was the great negotiating skills of Karl Jobst. He basically gave them more than they wanted. And now let's talk about so much money to afford the suit that my YouTube channel is no longer about what do I make videos about that I like. No, it's like, dude, how do I make videos that I just survive and can pay for this? Okay, so where do we get to notes? Here we go. right at the beginning of the lawsuit, right? Notch, the creator of Minecraft, yeah, he said he made a tweet saying, "Hey, Karl, I'm going to pay for your legal bills. We're paying all your legal bills." And I'm like, hell yeah, that's awesome. And then I messaged him and I'm like, "Are you sure about that, man? You sure you want to pay my legal bills?" He's like, "Yep, I want to go through with it." So he got in contact with his manager, and he started paying my legal bills. And like 3 months in, the manager's like, "We want to stop supporting you." And I was like, it's so weird because at the time I was like, he did help me for a few months. So he did, but what ended up happening was I got a really good law firm, because when a billionaire comes at you and says, "I'm going to pay your legal bills," you get a blanking good lawyer. That's what happened. So his legal bills were being paid by Notch, so he just decided to hire the most expensive lawyer he could hire, which makes sense because at that point in time, he didn't know that Notch would not continue to pay his legal bill. When Notch pulled out, I was stuck with this really expensive lawyer on my own, and then ultimately, over the course of 2.5 year lawsuit, that just ballooned out to massive cost. And that's one of the reasons I did a GoFundMe. I raised a bunch of money, and lately I've been super stressed about money because the money's run out, and I'm paying for it now, and just know I'm good going to pay for it. So someone got in contact with Notch again, and Notch didn't even know he wasn't supporting me anymore. Really? Wow, yeah, because apparently that was just he put me off to his manager, who just sort of pushed me off, like, stopped it. So then Notch is back, and he said, "I'll cover." So this was February 7th, 2024. He did make a tweet, but the tweet was made, "Notch has not been helping me for years. He helped for the first few months." So this tweet was January 17th, 2024. So did Notch come back, like Karl Jobst said, and pay the rest of it? In that case, it makes perfect sense why Karl is not afraid to lose, because you have a billionaire who's literally going to pay for all the legal. Now, again, these are legal fees. He may not pay for the loss, right? So the $600,000, the donations, the $200,000, Notch paying for the first 3 months. This is February, live streamed February 7th. So this is the last time that I know that he talks about Notch. Notch is back. He says Notch is back, and yeah, he'll cover a good amount of it. So it's a super good for me, super huge relief. Yeah, so that is what the dude, like yesterday, I know it's not the same situation, but yesterday when my buddy Ethan was like, "Yeah, we're going to do a campaign and like pay for your car for a couple races," I'm like, "Oh, this can't, what the hell are they paying for a car?" But yeah, that's so much of a relief, man. Yeah, that I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep for a long time for the past couple months. I've been feeling like a dog. I've got this charity drama coming up recently, the stress relief, and how happy he is about this. So, timeline. Let's timeline this, guys, because I think the timeline is super expensive. I do think that Karl Jobst selected his lawyers, and he probably picked the most expensive lawyers he could find because he thought money means expertise. I mean, when you got Michael DeWard here with, like 13 different areas of expertise to a non-lawyer, it looks pretty impressive. So let's do the timeline. So Notch, on May 26, 2021, tweets, "I got you. Let me pay." Okay? This is important. So it's May 26, 2021. He then hands, because he doesn't handle his own money, right? He's a billionaire. He's literally a billionaire. He then tells his secretary, "Hey, let's pay this guy's legal bills." And this tells Karl Jobst to hire the most expensive lawyer he can find, which at this time he thought was a very good lawyer. So he is, again, not paying for any of this when Notch, his second manager, is paying for it. Then the manager's like, this is ridiculous, we're pulling the plug. And she says, we are pulling the plug on this, right? Then we have an interview with Camelot. In this interview with Camelot, Karl says, hey, we reached back out to Notch, or somebody reached to Notch and told, hey, Notch, did you know that you're not paying for my legal bills? And this interview happened before the interview, there was a question to Karl. Notch is also helping with his cost. That was January 17th, 2024, right? So this was January 17th, 2024, and Karl responds on the same day, Notch hasn't been helping me for years. He helped for the first few months, right? So that would make sense. That would refer to the first 3 months that his manager had been paying, and then they decide not to pay. So from 2021 to 2024, maybe they only paid 3 months. But after this, so right after this, he got some good news that Notch was indeed willing to pay again, and this was on the Camelot interview. And the Notch individual on the interview time, I'm trying to find the timeline for the interview. The interview was, I think, February sometime, but at that point in time, Notch had jumped back in and said, hey, I'm going to take care of your legal fees. I didn't even know, but at that time, Karl had already raised the $200,000. So the question is, you have $600,000 in legal bills. Did Notch pay for all $600,000 of it? And then the $200,000 is just kind of icing that you got from GoFundMe. Because had you told, I mean, again, the situation is changing, right? Because Notch, and this is also shows that Karl was not very careful. So if the secretary 3 months in, or the manager 3 months in doesn't want to pay you, wouldn't the first person be that you contact Notch? Why would you wait 3 years to contact them? And then once he's contacted, he's like, oh, I didn't realize that we weren't paying for it. Oh, we'll cover it. And then the question is, did Notch continue to cover? Did he just retroactively pay for everything? This is why I don't love Karl. He's not transparent at all. He misleads. There's misdirection. He'll post a apology video or a retraction video at the end of a dark show video, at the very end of a totally unrelated video with a thumbnail that is not Billy Mitchell with a title. This is why the judge has such a big problem with Karl, because it's always like this, like kind of like, it feels a little bit like he's trying to like lead you off a cliff here, right? Like it's just, he either thinks we're like really stupid, and that's why we have to investigate this, right? This is not me. Whatever I have taken has come from Karl's own mouth. You know, when we're doing the Discord things and laughing about the AI, this is Karl's own mouth. There are far worse things that Karl's echo chamber have said, but that's not Karl, so it would be unfair to take it from that person. Like, there are a lot of crazy things that Earthcat guy says. He's kind of a separate entity, right? He is a separate entity. So let me then go ahead and paint you a few scenarios. One, Notch paid the entire legal fee, and maybe Notch just doesn't want to pay the damages, and maybe because you cannot pay the damages, right? Or the Billy Job's legal fees, because that sounds bad, because Notch was expecting them to win. Another scenario, 3 months of payment from Notch, and then Notch only pays the end. So Notch did tell Karl Jobst he would pay on February 2024. And that was after the fundraiser. So you still have $200,000 of fundraiser should Karl Jobst refund that if Notch paid it. If Notch had paid it entirely, and again, there's not really a clear understanding of who's paying what, but why Karl Jobst hired a law firm like he did? Because it was somebody else's dime. And I find this really, really disturbing. So he wasn't paying for it, or he did not believe. He still could have been paying part of it. I don't know. Again, this is very murky, right? So Notch jumps back in. Does he pay all future bills? Is he going to pay the past bills? Does he want... what does Notch want to do here? It's unknown, right? Because, again, it's quite murky as to... and he's already raised $200,000. Best case scenario, he has $200,000 from GoFundMe. You guys are never going to see that money back again. Money's already being spent. And then the $600,000 for the legal fees is paid by Notch. So best case scenario is Karl Jobst only has to pay Billy Mitchell's legal fees. Plus, it looks like $200,000, right, with the interest. It may not be as bad as Karl makes it out to be, because he has $200,000 in GoFundMe, and Notch is a billionaire. Now, billionaires hate losing lawsuits, right, or being part of a loss. So the question really becomes, maybe that's a question that you guys should ask Notch, how much did he actually pay? Did he indeed pay for the full $600,000 or over $600,000 in legal fees? Because he was, quote, back involved in February 2024. And since that time, there's been no discussion whether or not he continued paying, what type of payment. Like this is just all non-transparent for whatever reason. It is very, very murky here. I'm just giving you a timeline. The timeline is transparent. There's no change in the timeline. It's wild. But I now know, and we now know, why Karl Jobst has probably the least successful law firm for the highest cost. Definitely for this price point, they were very unsuccessful in whatever they were attempting to do. And you guys say, oh, it's because Karl's a difficult client. No, he literally picked the most expensive law firm he could find because he thought that was the best law firm. And why did he do this, right? So, like, the normal person, like a CoffeeZilla, one of the main things they're going to look at is not just how good the law firm is, or how prestigious, how many awards and so on, whether or not they can win and do a good job. He's going to look at the cost. Karl Jobst never looked at the cost because he had a billionaire, Notch, from Minecraft, the inventor of Minecraft, literally just greenlight the bill. Now, the manager probably saw Karl Jobst for what it was, right? He's like, okay, this has nothing to do with cheating. Let's not pay this dude because he lied to us, right? Maybe he lied, maybe. But at one point, the manager is saying, hey, I don't want to continue to pay this. This is probably excessive. And apparently Notch, right, did not. So Notch had said this recently. He says, I do not kiss and tell. That is the last time Notch responded to that thing. It's kind of interesting, right? Money wasted. Karl Jobst is a fraudster, defamer. Flight says, so all talk then, April 6th. I don't kiss and tell. So this was April 6th of this year. So he's saying, I don't kiss and tell. So Notch will not tell us how much money he gave to Karl Jobst, how he gave the money. But according to Karl Jobst in this interview, February 2024, Notch was back in, and Notch was going to pay a lot. And this was a huge relief for Karl Jobst, and he could then go on. So it explains, if you have carte blanche, right, from a billionaire, and he's not going to even be involved in you picking your lawyer, why not hire these guys, man? I mean, you have no risk if Notch is the one paying the bill, right? And that's how these guys got hired. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I've shown proof of the timeline. I've shown the transcripts. And you yourself can watch this interview as well. It is in the middle of the interview, right? Middle-ish of the interview. And you can listen to Karl explain it himself in his own words. I think that's the best type of evidence, right? I do believe Notch came back in. What did he pay for? Unknown, but he does seem to have paid for something later on. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And let me know if you think Karl should refund the GoFundMe. If Notch did pay the legal expenses, should the GoFundMe be refunded? So again, if Notch paid the whole $600,000 in legal expense, then that $200,000 would actually literally be sent to Billy Mitchell to pay damages, right? If that's how the math works. I do not know, but maybe somebody can contact Notch again. He seems to be very active on X, and ask him exactly how and when and how, and more importantly, how much was paid to Karl Jobst for his very expensive, very, very ineffective legal counsel. Anyway, bye guys.